Looks like I am actually live now. Hey everyone, welcome to day 3 of the Break Your Barriers Challenge. Today I am really excited. We're going to be talking about speed work and interval training. And this is so important because I don't want to say that increasing your distance is easy, but I think that you have to be much more deliberate about increasing your speed. And so this will be really helpful for you to be able to include some speed in your training plan. So by the way, if this is your first day joining us, I've been putting the previous videos in the units so that they're all in one place. So if you click at the little tab on the left that says units and you need to review the videos, review days 1 and 2, those will be there. And I think I put the homework threads from both days there. And I also have the worksheet pinned at the top. Looks like this. I should put the worksheet in the units too. That would actually probably be really helpful. So I've got the worksheet here. Looks like this. This is great for taking notes. So for those of you who haven't joined in before, I'm Joy Lackey. I am a running coach, and I help runners achieve their time, distance, and fitness goals. Even if you've been running for a while and you feel like you've plateaued, or if you've had to stop running due to an injury and you're trying to figure out how to get it back in again or get back into it again. My background is in massage therapy and I teach running form. And so I'm also really passionate about helping people keep from getting injured in the first place so that they can stay out on the trail or on the road and continue doing the sport that they love. So thanks for everyone who's commenting and letting me know that you're on right now. Hey, Matt, Mike, hey, Simon, Jamie, I'm glad to see you here. And hey, Brittany. And for anyone else who's watching and hasn't commented yet, I can't see that you're here, so just drop me a comment, and I'm so glad that you're watching. So also, and most of you who are on right now, I have actually chatted with, but if we haven't had a conversation over DM yet, you probably have one in your filtered inbox. I've been trying to reach out to everyone and see what kind of support you need. So if you check your filtered messages, if you haven't seen a message from me yet, then you'll see my message there. Yep. Okay. So again, and most of you probably already know this, we've got the videos under the units, and I'm going to keep them there until Monday, May 11th. So make sure to catch up before then. Today, we are going to be talking about one of my favorite things, which is speed. It's called Sprint Your Way Faster, although we'll be focusing more on intervals. And then tomorrow, I've been trying to be really good and not say that everything is my favorite thing, but I would say that today and tomorrow are my two actual legit real favorite things, is working on speed and working on running form. So tomorrow we're going to be doing running form as well, so make sure you're there for that. And then we'll be talking about tackling your long run on Tuesday. And then we've got some amazing bonus days. We've got Jessica Rice talking about high intensity interval training on Wednesday. We've got a Q&A session on Thursday. We'll have Christina Canizares talking about training for triathlon and her experience with that on Friday. And then Kirsten Lackey, who's a registered dietitian, has some amazing information for us on nutrition while you're running and for weight loss and everything on Saturday. So that's going to be the schedule for the rest of the week. I'm going to post a homework thread right after this. So thanks to everyone who's been participating in the homework thread. I'm really excited to see what you're doing and what your plans are. So it's time for the giveaway. Let's see who else is on here. Hey, Stephen, thanks for joining in. Hi, Linda. Happy Sunday to you too. Hi, Michelle. It's great to see you. So so I'm doing a giveaway each day for the people who are on the previous day. So for today, we've got Robert Elliott is the winner of our giveaway, and it's I don't actually have a bag of 8 here, but he's going to win a bag of Boulder Salt, which is, I think, one of the best electrolyte products out there. it's really well balanced for what you need when you're running or exercising really hard. And it doesn't have any sugar, so you don't have to worry about the carb content. You just mix it into your water or put it on your food and get your electrolytes through that. So I'll contact Robert later on and get the information for where to send that. So for anyone who's watching, I would love to hear from you. Make sure that you comment in order to be entered into the giveaway for tomorrow. And just start off, let me know what your pace is now as you run, say for a 5K, just drop in what your current pace is and if working on speed is something that you really want to do. Cool. So let's get started. Oh, hi, Jed. Thanks for joining in. So, okay. So let's start with actually talking about speed work. I know that not all runners care that much about speed. A lot of people just want to get out and run, and that's totally fine. But I want to start off with a little bit of an introduction of why would you want to get faster? Why would you want to work on speed? Obviously, the biggest one, and probably most of you who are on here, are doing that for better race times. So that's definitely a great goal, or just for the satisfaction of having a better pace. But it's also actually really helpful. Like it will help it will help improve your endurance as well, because working on your speed is one of the best ways to increase your VO2 max, which is actually how much oxygen your body can absorb. And so the more oxygen you can absorb, you can either use that to run faster or you can use it to run longer so that your body feels like, so if you've practiced running faster, then you can take that to your endurance because your body doesn't feel like it's working as hard. It's used to absorbing all this oxygen. And so if you are wanting to expand your endurance, expanding or increasing your speed is also helpful. And then it's also really great, of course, being able to run faster is a great way to start burning off your fat and some of your water weight as well. And it increases your muscle, especially your fast twitch muscle fibers. Another way that it helps increase your endurance because of that is because it helps you adapt to burning fat. And so then you're not using up the glycogen, so the sugar, the kind of part way, the halfway point between sugar that your body stores in your muscles. You're not burning that up as quickly in your endurance race, and you can kind of save that to the end of the race and run on fat a little bit more. Okay, awesome. We've got 8:52 as the 5K pace, 10 minutes a mile, 4 minutes and 5 seconds per kilometer. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. So we've got the homework sheet here. So today, actually, I've got this chart for session 3, and then we'll talk a little bit on if you can pull out your session 1 page here. Sorry, I'm dropping papers everywhere. And we're going to use this chart here a little bit for session 1 as well. So let me get this. So I actually wanted to start by addressing my little formula here. Someone pointed out to me that it wasn't super clear, so that was really helpful feedback. I think what I realized that I've done with this, these are great guidelines to go if you kind of want to ballpark on what to work on. But what I've been doing here with these formulas was trying to take a really complex equation and simplify it to a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And I think it didn't work very well, and it didn't come out that clear. So you can use this if you want. For the intervals, this time so I have it divided by, take your 5K pace, subtract a minute, and then divide it by 4. And that's the total amount of time that you want to be running the quarter mile. So if your 5K pace is, we'll say 11 minutes because it makes it easier, then you subtract 1 minute, so 10 minutes, and then divide it by 4, and that gives you 2 minutes and 30 seconds to run each quarter mile rep, if that makes sense. But if you want to make things simpler, just take the pace you're running now and try to run a little bit shorter. So that might make things a lot easier as well. But I also wanted to address just, okay, cool. Yeah, the difficulty with making a one-size-fits-all formula is because you can progress in speed so much faster depending on the distance that you're running and the speed you're already running. So like when I first started running, I was happily running my 15-minute mile. I can power walk a mile in 17 or 18 minutes. So that was definitely not a very fast pace, but I do my 5K in 45 minutes and I was perfectly happy with that. And then I went running with actually a guy that I really liked who is doing the Couch to 5K program. So I don't remember if we were running 2 or 3 miles, but it was about the distance that I'd been running regularly at 15 minutes. And because I really wanted to impress him and not lag behind, and he wanted to do the same, there was no way he was going to be slower than me. That was the first time we both broke 10 minutes. We did 9:56 miles for that. And so when you're first starting off, if the context is right, you can improve by, 5 minutes in one day. I wouldn't recommend aiming for that because that can put a lot of stress on your body, but definitely that's a really satisfying time when suddenly things click and you suddenly oh, I can run a lot faster. That's really awesome. But then when you're getting to the other end of the spectrum, talking about the fastest people in the world, Usain Bolt runs, he set the world record at 9.63 seconds per 100 for the 100-meter dash. And that was breaking his own record of something like 9.78. I can't remember, 9.74 or something. So when you get that far, you're literally measuring your improvement in hundredths of a second. So, there's a whole range. There's several orders of magnitude there that you can improve on. So it's hard to make a one-size-fits-all formula. So just kind of, I think a lot of you are kind of running at about that 10 minutes per mile or, 8 to 10 minutes per mile. And so you can be expecting maybe to be improving by, say, 5, maybe 10 seconds per mile over a decent amount of distance, just to give you a little bit of guidance there for what to expect. Okay, let's see who else we have on here. So, Stephen is about 4:30, 4:40 per kilometer. That's great. Hi, Letty. Welcome. So glad to have you joining in. Okay, so let's jump into the training program. So this chart here on session 1 is actually, so this would be kind of your first kind of a baseline to start from. So, if you're running a 5K, you'll start with slightly shorter intervals. If you're running a 10K or marathon, maybe half-mile intervals. A marathon, if that's what you're training for, the 1 mile intervals will be really helpful because that's a short distance compared to the total of the race. And so what we want to be doing, let's bring this up now, and you don't have to fill all this out now. I would say wait each week. So kind of see how you do this week and then make your goals, set your goals for the next week so that you're continually improving, but you haven't set yourself some unrealistic goal for week 11 that it turns out that you can't really manage. So the idea behind this is 1 week you'll want to increase your time. 1 week you'll want to increase your reps, and then every so often you'll want to increase your distance. And that could be every 3 weeks, that could be every 6 weeks, depending on what you're feeling. But you never want to take one workout and try to increase 2 of those factors. Only throw yourself one challenge at a time, otherwise you're putting yourself at risk for burnout and injury. So the guidelines for doing the intervals are fairly simple. So when I go out, interval runs are currently my favorite thing. I'll go out, I'll do my 1 mile warm up. You really do want to have, this specific run is the one where you really want to do your warm up first. And then if you can do it at a racetrack, that's great. I have just kind of measured out in my neighborhood. I have like a loop that I go around, and I know which house is 400 meters from my driveway, which house is 600, which is 800, which is 1,000. And I just use that loop. It can be a little tough to measure. I just did a couple of laps around that loop to get a sense for it. So if you want to measure it out that way, that's a good way to do it first too. So you've done your warm up, you've set your distances. The important thing with the intervals is these aren't all out sprints. This particular workout will go to different other ways that you can work on your speed as well besides this, but I really like the interval workouts. And so you don't want to be all out sprinting the whole time. This is also practice in pacing yourself. So you set your target time here. So for me, in our example here, with the 5K training plan, maybe your target is 2 minutes and 30 seconds for that quarter mile, 400 meter interval. So the first one is probably going to feel kind of easy and like you're going really, really slow. But by the time you get to the last one, you're going to feel, to the 8th one, you're going to feel like you're sprinting really hard. So the idea is to keep all 8 or 5 or 6, however many reps you're doing, all at the same speed. So you're having to really pace yourself on the first one and really push yourself on the last one. But this is a really good way to start to train your body to conserve that energy and get a feel at the end as well as you fatigue, how fast are you actually running. It also will help prevent you from getting injured, help prevent you from getting too burnt out at the beginning of a race, which is really important. And a lot of what speed work is about is being able to maintain a constant speed. And definitely let me know if you have any questions or anything. The other thing that I try to do with this challenge is I actually want to do, so I'll do, my first 7, I'm actually doing the 10K training plan now, so I'm on fewer reps of a longer distance. But I will try to do the first, everything except the last rep at the same speed, and then the last one, I just go on a full out sprint and try to break the record for all the other times with that one. I'm terrible at my pacing. My first one is the fastest, and then I kind of gradually slow down. And then my last one is the next fastest because I'm really pushing myself there. So that's definitely an area where I need to work. I think that's a challenge for a lot of runners, is keeping that even pacing throughout the race. But this is such great practice for pacing yourself at the beginning of the race, pushing yourself at the end of the race, as well as training your heart and your lungs so they can do all this hard work in between, getting a feel with your legs for the cadence and the stride for running faster without having to maintain it for a really long distance yet. And you'll start transferring, as you get used to that, you'll start transferring those techniques naturally over into your tempo runs and your long runs as you speed those up too. Okay, any questions about that? Is that fairly clear? We're going to get to the gray boxes in a minute, and that, I keep dropping this, sorry. Before we move on to the gray boxes and this last line that says added challenge, is there anything that needs to be clarified in those other ones? Okay. So I would suggest, and this is why I would suggest just doing kind of this standard basic interval workout, every 2 weeks, and then every third week we're going to go over some of the ways that you can switch it up, because there are lots of other ways to work on speed. And I think that intervals are the safest and the most consistent and the easiest to just add into your weekly routine so that you're not having to overthink things. But there are other ways to work on your speed that I think can be really, really valuable. And so that's why I have this shaded week that says added challenge. So your added challenge could, for example, be hill repeats. Running on hills is a great way to start to build up that power in your legs and get them used to pushing a lot more force, which will then translate into more speed when you're going horizontally instead of part of that energy going vertically. So that's one way you could switch it up. And then, of course, when you're doing your hill repeats that you're going to be going a little bit slower. You can try to do your hill repeats at the same time that you were doing your normal repeats, but it's honestly probably not going to happen. So that's a great way. This is also really important if you're running on a hilly course. That is going to be really important to be doing some of your training on hills. And it doesn't have to be the intervals, although I think that will be really helpful for you. It can also be on your tempo runs or your long runs. That's my current challenge, actually, is I have the hills in Boulder. So I really want to improve. Hill running is my focus for the summer. We all enjoy hills. Yes, we do. So I have like 3 hills of graduating difficulty that I'm planning to tackle this summer. So if anyone knows Boulder, the US 36 Lookout, which is kind of it's a fairly good elevation gain, but it's fairly steady until you get right at the end. And then there's another one that's actually flat for most of the 3-mile run, and then it's like it feels like a 45-degree angle. I'm sure it's not. But then I get to run back down that, so that's great. So that will be my next challenge. That'll be my run next week. Will be fun. And then there's Mount Sanitas, which is basically just running up a staircase and back down again. So so that's my challenge. I'm doing that for my tempo runs, for my long runs. And so actually not so much for my intervals, but I think I need to. Although random tangent, actually, my next run was going to be the NCAR one, so the fairly steep one, but for a shorter distance. But I was hiking there the other day, and I nearly stepped on a rattlesnake. And then about 10 feet away, I nearly stepped on another rattlesnake. So I might be skipping that one and just going straight for the hard one and telling myself that there are no rattlesnakes there. Okay, so that's hills. Another one, and this will be great for those of you with babies and toddlers, is adding resistance. So on these shaded weeks, instead of doing hills or doing your normal workout, you could take your kids out in a stroller and do your runs. That really seems to me to be, I'm sure you could find something else to push or something else to add resistance or carry some weights or something, but I feel like a stroller is kind of the most practical way to do that. And so you could be, again, adding resistance. That's building up the power in your legs as you're getting used to pushing this extra weight. So it's a good way to start to build up that power and those fast twitch muscle fibers without putting yourself at the danger that a full out sprint can be. And so this is, and again, and with the hills and with the usual interval runs and with resistant runs, the goal is to do each of the intervals in the same amount of time. So you are going to have to take into account the extra resistance and slow your speed down, but you still want to aim to have every interval the same amount of time. Actually, another great way to do this is you can do this on your bike. If you're using, if you're cycling for your cross training, you can switch between, you can do the intervals and switch the gears up for more resistance and switch them down for less resistance. And that can also be a great way to kind of add that resistance training. Get your legs used to having that more power. It's a slightly different motion, but it's still working those muscle fibers and getting you used to pushing a lot more weight forwards. Yes, pushing a lot more weight forwards, which will then translate into speed on your races. Let's see. Longer, shorter. Yeah, so the hills and the sprints are the two big things, or the hills and the resistance would be the two big things that I would add here that you can alternate out for your little grayed out boxes. Then the last thing that I do for speed work is sprints. And sprints can be really fun. You know, I don't know if you remember being a little kid back in the playground and I used to just run around all the time. And I don't know how I did it. You know, we could play at the playground for hours just running and stopping and running and stopping. But I just go on a full out sprint and then take some recovery time and then just do it again, playing tag or, you know, all those fun games that kids do. So we can add that element into our running and just, you know, you have a nice straightaway. You really want to have like a flat surface so that you don't have any trip hazards or anything, and just full out sprint for a little while. That really practices getting your cadence up, getting that long stride in. Your legs are getting used to that motion. The other time that I sprint, though, is at the end of every run. It doesn't matter which run I'm doing. My last interval, the end of my tempo run, the end of my long run, that last half hour or half mile, I just want to end the whole race on a full out sprint. It's good. It's great for keeping your energy up and kind of ending your run on a good, satisfying note. But it's also, again, it's a really good time to practice getting that feeling and that long stride and that high cadence in without necessarily as much of a trip and fall hazard. You know, sometimes just having that speed can create a lot of speed can create a hazard if you're not used to it, if your muscles, you know, if your muscles are tight, or if you if there's something for you to trip over, whatever. You know, that's always my concern with sprinting when I'm fresh and able to go really fast, is kind of pulling a muscle or tripping over something. And so that can be fun to do sometimes if you're sure that you're safe. But I prefer to sprint right at the end of the race when I know that I'm pushing myself and my heart and my lungs are getting the benefit of that last push and learning to expand that VO2 max, but I'm not actually running as fast. And so I'm not as prone to tripping or pulling a muscle. But, you know, do what feels good to you. Try those sprints in different places. If you're just going on your usual run and you know that you have a nice long stretch of perfectly clear sidewalk, that can be a fun and satisfying time to just burst into a random sprint. All right. Let's see. Oh, yes. And then the last point, again, with safety for this interval training is just to make sure I have this scheduled for once a week because it is really intense. If you're intentionally picking up your speed, you're increasing your distance, trying to keep the same pace, or you're increasing your pace over a specified distance. So you're putting a lot of strain on your muscles. And that's why I have this as one workout a week. If you're really motivated, you could probably do two, but I definitely wouldn't do more than that. You really need the recovery time, and that's also why I want it to be as spaced as far as possible from the long run, because that's the other run where you're really pushing yourself on the other end of the spectrum in your endurance and your stamina. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself afterwards, that you are doing that foam rolling, giving yourself time to recover, and really using this to support your health and your body rather than wear it down. All right, let me know if we have any questions. And then, so in summary, the getting faster, working on speed is really beneficial, not just for your race goals, but also for your health, for improving your VO2 max, for improving your endurance, increasing your fat burning capacity. So that's awesome for weight loss. The core of the training plan, I would say, would be your interval training, making sure to keep your intervals all at the same length, which is great discipline for running a race when you're going to want to start off really, really fast. Make sure that you're only increasing, even though we have all these different factors here, make sure you're only increasing one of them at a time. So you can increase the distance of your intervals, you can try to increase your pace, or you can increase your reps, but don't try to do two of those at the same time. And then the added challenge is probably enough of running uphill or running with resistance is probably enough of a challenge on its own that you don't need to be increasing anything else either. But incorporate this every week into your workout. It's going to be really, really helpful, especially for those of you who are wanting to set new personal records. This is, and it's going to easily translate over into your tempo runs and your long runs as well. So awesome. Oh, hi, Gary. Thanks for joining in. And hi, Becca. So glad to see you here. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining in. I'm going to post the homework thread in a few minutes, and I will see you all tomorrow.